All right. Does
Here
it
we
say go
are.
live yet? I think it says you're live. It says, everybody, can you hear us? Can you hear Ernesto? Can you hear me?
Yes, let us know.
Let us know. Drop some comments below. Let us know where you're from. Let us know where you're from, and then in a couple minutes here, we'll get started with the discussion. Let's make sure we have the stream
Okay.
going. This is the first time, so Ernesto, I'm sure you've been on my channel before, and these Friday ones I usually use as like a brain dump of what's going on this week. But then I
Okay.
figured, since you hit me up this morning, I'm like, dude, it'd be so cool to just have us both sit down in this forum and go through this, the latest news that's happening in the Elon world, especially with
Love
Twitter and
it.
all that stuff. So,
Love it.
and I've
Yeah.
loved our conversations in the past. So I feel like we both kind of like riff off of each other really well. So I'm excited
Awesome.
to see what kind of
Awesome.
shit show we're gonna have here.
Awesome.
It's gonna be fun.
It's crazy. It's crazy time. Look, remember, I just want to start off with one thing. Remember when when Elon made the move, right? To like, oh, I'm going to buy Twitter.
Yeah,
And I think you reached out, you were like, hey, do you want to talk about this? And I was just like more in shock. Like, I don't know what's going on. What,
yeah,
And it took me a while actually to process a bunch of it. And I'm sure it
hmm
has for others. Right.
hmm
Um, but I had this weird gut feeling like not the right. I'm on the camp of the not the right move. I don't think
okay,
it's good. And now I
okay.
have some thoughts around all of that. I mean, if you want to go into some of that,
Yeah, I'd
but
love to. Let me just confirm with the chat. Chat, if you guys can
yeah,
confirm for us that you can hear me okay and that you can hear Ernesto okay, and then as soon as we get confirmation there, we'll get started. I think
okay.
somebody said I can hear you. I just need a couple more folks just to confirm for us. By the way, we have people from Switzerland, Australia,
Hey,
Toronto, Finland,
wow.
Canada.
Switzerland, you're
Uh,
like happy hour. You're
yeah,
at happy hour.
I know. Y'all better be drinking over there in Europe land.
Friday.
Yeah, right. We got Austria. Perfect. All right. Can't hear you both. We got Alaska. Perfect. Okay. Loud and clear in Iceland. Okay. Beautiful.
Very
All right.
cool.
Thank you all very much for joining. Don't forget to like, just so more people can see this as it goes through the YouTube land, and we'll get started with the discussion. Okay, so actually, before we even do that, Ernesto, you want to quickly introduce yourself to the audience and plug your channel, all that good stuff, and then we'll
Sure.
get started. Yeah, just so people know your background.
Yeah, I'm Ernesto Glucksman, and my show is called Through the Noise podcast. There's a Through the Noise band, but I'm definitely the podcast guy. And I've been on that show, I just basically chasing down the world of, climate tech and AI. And, I'm on the side of like, we need more electrons, we need less CO2. So it's just an exploration of all the companies that are doing incredible work there. So appreciate it. Let me plug that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Do you want to kick off the discussion? So
sure.
whatever's going on. Yeah,
Yeah, because that was the impetus. How long it's been since he made those moves, like a couple of weeks, 3
it's been
weeks
a
or
couple of
whatever.
weeks.
And
Yeah,
then today I pick up my CNBC and there's Dan Ives on TV. And I'm like, anytime I see that guy talk, that guy is sharp, right? Like
yeah,
he like understands markets. And so click, and it's like him saying, it's not like he just woke up too, or he's got a cold or something. And he was saying that Elon just tweeted that the deal is on suspension until
hmm
like further discovery of like how many spam users, like apparently less than 5% the user base, right?
hmm
And I'm just like, what? And then Dan Ives fills in the blank of like why that's like so out there. I mean, it's not so much the investigation. I think it's partly like the way. I mean, obviously, Elon's gonna. What did you say in my email when I responded? Like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is crazy. This is like what's happening. You were like, well, Elon does what Elon does.
yeah. Elon's gonna Elon. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just like, what is going on? Because I mean, obviously, this past week's been no, the past 2 weeks has been awful in the markets. Like
yeah.
everything's been tanking, right? So
Past few months, rather. It's been
yes,
going down for a while.
yes, we're
Yeah,
probably gonna hit that recession, like whatever how they measure recession, right? Like two down markets in 2 quarters or something. But
yeah,
I mean, I think Dan Ives thinks that this is going to just throw this whole thing into the whole deal into a circus mode.
yeah.
I think what he's trying, I mean, maybe he's not trying. I'm with Dan. Like, I think he's trying to get a better price because
Yeah.
It's gone. Everything's gone down, right?
I think that's 100% it. I think
know?
it's the combination of those two things. If you think about like the current macro markets, I forget who said this morning. I was watching a couple of things about it just to get myself a little bit more educated as well on the topic. You have to think about two major things that have happened recently with the deal. One is the macro markets and the stock market and the economy. Really, everything's getting repriced. Right. So you have a stock market where everything is down. Basically, everything's down 20-30%, especially like even huge companies like Disney and other companies have taken a tremendous hit as it pertains to valuation of those companies in the stock market. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is on Twitter's latest quarterly call, and then folks in the chat, feel free to correct me here. On the latest quarterly call of Twitter, they made an adjustment to their how many users they had either live or how many users were real. They essentially lowered the percentage of active real users. And I think the combination of those two things, regardless of how Elon's thinking about the angle, but I think that, one can make the argument that those two events are valid enough for anybody to say, hey, listen, like I think we should sit down and talk about this a little bit further, because from the time I made the offer to now, the stock market's down 15-20%. Everything's getting repriced. Oh, and by the way, on your latest quarterly report, before they accepted the deal, after they accepted the deal, they came out and said, hey, we have to rejigger what live users are, like how many live users we actually have that are non-bots.
Well, why didn't Elon mention the live users? He mentioned the spam bots.
It's inverse, right? So spam bots are the ones that aren't real users, essentially. So when I say live users, I mean like the real human beings.
Then the value is the live users of Twitter.
Right.
The part that's crap, the part that you can try to solve is getting rid of the bots, right?
Right.
So, but he's saying I thought the tweet read that it was lower. It was like 5%. It gave me the sense that it was like unexpectedly lower amount of bots. It didn't have as many bots.
So
maybe I read that wrong.
No, you're right. But I think the argument he's making is that, say Twitter has 100 million users total, and say Twitter is saying that they have less than 5% of those, so less than 5 million are bots, right? But if they recently made an adjustment to their user base that says our 100 million is really 95 million, right? Then really the true value of Twitter is directly linked to how many real users there are on the network. You know what I'm saying?
But was the original number? So remember, maybe it was like 3% was bots, but now it's gone up to 5% bots. I can kind of understand like, whoa, there's a bigger mess here for me to like try to untangle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it didn't sound like that was the thing. It sounded like it went down, the bots. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know if anybody's got that, but
anybody in the comments check us if we're wrong here, but I don't know. Let me see.
But whatever the investigation is, and I think Dan Ives' point was it didn't go through like the proper like discuss, like you buy, like when you're buying a house, you got to do your due diligence. You're in a deal, you agree to the number that it's going to be, and then you got to kind of go in there and look at like, well, when I offered it, I didn't see the problem was going to be this big, and I have to fix that.
Right.
Or seller, you lower your price because I have to take that, I have to use more money to fix the problem before I buy it from you. Like the negotiations happen in that spot. Yeah. But I think Elon just throwing it out there on like just happenstance with Twitter just gives this like bad impression that it's just like, on Twitter, just like Elon just woke up suddenly regretting making the deal. Right.
I mean, yeah, you could be right. I mean, honestly, you could be right. I want to highlight a quick comment here. So Next Big Future said Hindenburg Research, which is a fund that usually like shorts companies, like they're known for like going against the grain as far as like, they think companies are going to go lower. So they short companies in the hopes that they make money as the company loses value. Right. So they said, Hindenburg Research said Elon has all the power and put out the case for this renegotiation. This is an excuse to renegotiate. Musk knew there were a lot of bots, but Twitter opened the door by revealing 1% to 2% double counting for the past 3 years in the last quarterly report. So thank you, Next Big Future. So that could be one of the biggest reasons why, right?
it sounds like more bots. It's a bigger problem. So
Right.
therefore, let's lower the price because the value of this is not that great. Oh, but by the way, it coincides with the fact that all the markets are down, so capital costs are higher for anyone to like
Exactly.
purchase it. So yeah, I mean, I would do the same thing, but don't you do that kind of behind the doors as you're doing the disclosures? Don't you? Why would you go out and like, let me just bang this out on Twitter?
So I think that's
You
where
know?
Elon's like so different from anyone else, honest, right or wrong. You know, like I
Yeah,
think this is his unorthodox nature of trying to solve a problem. You know, and for the
right.
sake of transparency, because that's another thing too that I think Elon has shown in the past is that
Big on that.
he's trying to be as transparent as humanly possible, and perhaps he feels that because he's I don't know if you know this, but there's a part of the deal is that a percentage of the share he's going to borrow against a percentage of his shares to fund the deal of Tesla
Sure.
shares.
Yeah, because
So
otherwise you have to sell so much. So it's you make you get a
exactly,
big loan and you get those other investors lined up and you make the case for how they're going to get their money back.
exactly.
All of that has been made, but now just the way he approached it sounds like that's all now up in the air to renegotiate it. Right.
Right. But I think
Like he has to
that.
go.
Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that's why it's as public as it is. It's because there's so much tied to, there's a significant portion of the deal that's theoretically tied to the Tesla shares of him borrowing against it. And that's a personal matter, but maybe in his head, he thinks, okay, I owe transparency because I am using, I'm taking loans out against Tesla, and Tesla has I have a very big investor base. And it seems like my decision to buy Twitter is somehow correlated to Tesla. And so I feel like I need to be open and transparent about what I'm doing here because it's the right thing to do, you know. And
Right.
I think he always
Tries to do
operates
that.
exactly
He's
like
very principled in that way,
which is weird.
one again, which is like it's weird.
It's weird,
Yes, especially
right?
coming from the guy that lives in Washington D.C. Transparency is rather odd here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think in business in general, I think you think
Yeah.
about most business dealings are done behind closed doors, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much at risk, and the misinterpretation, or even just simply like the perception. Like, right, that's what Elon said, right? He abhors the perception of doing good. He wants to just do good, right? And like people
Right.
that pretend to just do good, but that's all part of probably his ethos. I think you're right about that. There was something I wanted to mention on this though. I mean, where's your stance then on like? Here's the thing. I don't know if you saw the Financial Times interview with Elon Musk recently. It was about a week ago.
Yeah.
It was him and then his co-founder. And I think they were there to sort of share more of like the nature of how Tesla got started, right?
Yeah.
Because there's some questions and whatever. And there was one question the reporter, whoever that guy was, asked Elon, hey, I could be totally misparaphrasing this, but basically it was like a question about like, do you think you're exposing Tesla to, what your fiduciary duty to Tesla that now you're purchasing this Twitter asset? Like, do you think that could impact the stock price? And I think that Elon paused there to really, I mean, he always pauses to think about his answers, unlike me, but he did make a pause. I wonder if that it inserted like a little bit of a doubt in his mind, whether the move to grab Twitter is a good idea. Cause I am definitely on the camp of like, no, like I would have been like, what? Like that was my initial reaction and it's stuck. I think it's just not good to get into the quagmire of social media companies. It's just, it's even the suggestions that he sort of started to put out there, like what he would want to change and bring more transparency. I think they're all fraught with problems. Like I've been stepping through this stuff and it's like, it just looks like a giant distraction from everything else.
And I love to pick your brain on this because I'm on the opposite camp. So this is going to be like an awesome debate
good.
here. I think so. As far as the host potentially implanting something in his brain that says, like a new thought, I highly doubt that. I think
just the feel of it though. We should go back and get that clip out and put it in here.
Okay.
I don't know because it's like you're trying to like see what his emotions are about a question he gets, right? Like you can't read that guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think Elon's super measured. I think he's really, there's only been like one or two times that I can think in the past where he's made a decision where it perhaps was not like, so for example, the even the when he said funding secured, like the 420, I'm going private 420 thing, he's still arguing that was the right decision. That was one of the biggest ones that people have been like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. There was another one where he decided
turns out he did have it secured, right? Like it turns out like that was
he was trying to prove that he did. Like he has he has backup for it essentially. There was another time where he decided that he wants to I think he wanted to close down all the sales centers for Tesla, like back in 2018 or something. I forget when it happened exactly, but then he changed his mind. I just don't. I really don't think so. I think he understands the whole landscape of it, and I think from the beginning in my opinion, it doesn't seem like he would make a $44 billion deal on a whim. I think he's much more calculated than that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Right. I think
and then to kind of think about like, okay, well, where's this sense of confidence comes from? It's like overwhelming demand for Tesla cars, like ridiculous, astronomical demand that Tesla can't meet because they're trying to scale and to production as fast as possible, and it seems like it's boundless, right? Like they've had to increase the prices of cars, not because things are costing more, but it's just to try to shorten the line waiting for your car, like when you purchase the car, right? Like it's just an amazing thing that he's on there. So that's not going to give him worries about that. But I can tell you, like, I would be worried about stepping into the role of a referee in the public square, right? Okay. Like I feel that's like there's just all kinds of issues. And I've had a long time like concerns about social media just in general. Like I used to be a big Twitter, like when Twitter first came out, I thought it was amazing. I thought it was like, I can get it. I can follow like experts. I can see that like the general the things that they're covering, like it was fantastic. And it was for a long while, but then somewhere around there, they changed the model of the feeds to like a relevance model. I don't know if you've heard about that, but 2017, and this is one of the major mistakes I think social media has done in general. That's actually hurt like the public discourse. It's like instead of just like they had this issue before the relevance model. They had this issue where like if you followed 1,000 people and you're getting real-time tweets, you're not going to be able to keep up with any of that, or Facebook posts or whatever it was, right? Like when they went to the relevance where they're just trying to show you like the most relevant or like there was actually a step in there where they were just showing you like the most engaged posts or the most engaged tweets while you were gone. Here's the thing you would see. They switched that to like, well, what is the stuff that actually encourages you to engage with even more? That's the relevance model. And that started the downfall of like social media as far as I'm concerned. Right. Because the main thing is everybody's monkey brain is predisposed to get angry, fearful, whatever it is, to the things that you see. Those are the things you're going to react to more frequently. Right. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to keep going with that, but that's one problem. And it's algorithmic, right? It has the intended consequence that it's more profitable. Yeah. It makes these things really sticky, but it has the unintended consequence of just like messing with us all with like what drives us to get upset about.
But isn't that a direct correlation to the ad model as well? Like, wouldn't you only do that if you're trying to drive more clicks on your platform because you're reliant on ads to add revenue to your platform?
Yes,
because if the one thing you think about, if you really think about it, the one thing that is one of the key things that he's looking to change with this taking it private is that he wants to rely on ad revenue way less. I think 40 to 45%, and make it more subscription based or some other way of monetizing the platform that is not dependent on ads because of exactly what you described. Because of that,
but behavior. It doesn't take the relevance model out. He's not saying we're going to take the relevance model out. He's saying, like one of the solutions to this is like, okay, we got to open source the algorithms. And by the way, I'm a big proponent about open source software. Like, yes, we should. I just don't think that that's going to get us what we think. It's just going to reinforce the relevance model in terms of like how it works.
Why?
But it's because effectively your Twitter account has its own algorithm versus mine. Like what is relevant to you is different from what's relevant to me. And the algorithms are self-correcting to given based on like what I engage in. So unless we're willing to actually go back to, just real time, like when you as far as I tweet something, I see it. If you want to go to that approach, we're still going to like the algorithm's still going to have this propensity over time to give us more and more negative content that stimulates us. That's to me, that's the core issue with these systems. How do you fix that? You got to fix people. I mean, you're not going to fix people, right? Then you're going to get into the realm of tweaking the algorithm. Let me think about it like this.
So let me just rephrase that for my brain. So are you saying that humans inherently are not we should? Will social media always end up in us destroying ourselves in a sense?
Yes.
So that's sort of your stance, is like social media, period. The end game is destruction, is how you view.
Think of your brain. Okay, think of your brain. Think of your brain. Your brain is like reacts to shit that's wrong. Your desk is disorganized, or this piece of software sucks, or, you see the snake in the grass. Like, your brain is optimized to like find disorder and kind of like, oh, what's going on over there? You're driving down the road. There's a car accident. What does everybody do? Everybody slows down because everyone wants to take a look at like what's weird. No one pays attention when the road's like working. No one cares when the software does the job. It just sort of falls behind. Like, it's so, in our natural proclivity to like look at the accident. So
let me give you an alternate reason why Twitter could exist, right? So let me ask this question: do you think there is a market for the truth right now in the world?
Heck yeah. I mean, yes, we need it. I feel like what if
Twitter is that solution? So instead of thinking of it as an algorithm that's going to like give you what your brain theoretically could be like, I completely agree with you. We have a monkey brain, and it's like there's just synapses that most of us have that like it's unstoppable. Like we can't stop it. Like it's like, oh my god, shiny thing. Oh, like you said, accident. I got to look at it. But I feel like there is a gigantic market right now for the truth. And there's a gigantic market for just tell me what the fuck's going on, in a sense, like I just want to know what's going on. In my head, I think that is what he's trying to solve. He's trying to hit that market. And the way I view that is a completely separate sort of thing that versus what Twitter is today. So like Twitter, like you said, it's, there's two ways of having Twitter. It's the chronological order, and you got the relevance, right? Which is, I think 80% plus users use relevance. And I bet you most of them don't even know they can do chronological order. So it's like they go on Twitter or Facebook or Snapchat or TikTok, God forbid, and then boom, it's just, dopamine hit. But I think Twitter is not going to be geared towards that. It's going to be geared towards just tell me what the truth is. Just give me tools, at least give me some way to understand what the truth is, because there's a market for it. And if one thing that I think Elon has proven is that he understands how to solve business needs that are transformational for society. And I think the truth is that, right?
That's what I want. Let's just say that's the direction I want it to happen.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. I mean, I don't see the possibilities. Like, I think of it this way. You like the video of your neighbor mowing, the grass, no one cares. Your neighbor losing his shit because you have an argument with him and you record that. Okay, there's some of them cares. But the neighbor losing their shit at a political rally, it's like that's like monkey. That's just like it's so easy to find an audience for that. You just go, oh, okay, send that video to this group of people on the other side, and they're going to be like, look at those assholes. That political party is full of guys losing their shit. So then you have social justice warriors, and then you have anti-social justice warriors. And you just like the algorithm is like, it's dispassionate. It's just trying to get you to see shit that you would like so that you click on the platform more. Now, to the extent that we could reduce the advertising model associated with that, I think that's a great idea, because yes, we don't need like the clicks, that game, like the click for money, the clickbait stuff. That's not that drives that algorithm into play. That makes it happen. But how do you then get to the truth, even if you were to go to some new algorithmic model? Like the second problem is jumping into becoming a content moderator. I mean, that's its own nightmare.
Why does a human have to do that? Actually, before we even do that, let me read your comment, because it kind of jumps into this. So Fenriz the Thule, sorry, I'm like so bad with pronouncing names, but he said, I agree with Farzad about the truth thing, but I also think that there's a gigantic aversion to truth. Just look at anti-vaxxers, flat earthers, birds aren't realers, religious extremists, so on and so forth. So it's kind of playing to what you're saying a little bit from that angle.
I would make an argument that those people in their feeds, that's the truth to them. Like, that's their truth, and the algorithm just feeding that. Now, are there trolls out there that recognize that and are generating content that feeds misinformation, and then the algorithm just finds the profiles that this thing will do well with? Yeah, like tons of them. Like that's a cottage industry, right?
So but I think there is a distinction between what people see as their truth and being exposed to information that is not biased or like heavily biased or inherently untrue. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a difference there. So I think if we clean up it's almost like garbage, like, like in the data world, garbage in, garbage out. If you have garbage data, you're going to get garbage results, right? So in my head, people's brains are like the dashboard or the thing that's taking the information in. It's using its brain to do whatever, and then it outputs some sort of output, right? If social media and the internet is built in a way so that the bad information is incentivized, all you're going to get is humans that output information that is not based in reality or facts.
Then how do you categorize bad information? Like, how do you categorize that so that we can identify that and have the algorithm, not a human who probably is biased, is subjective to the whims of their, how they decide things.
Yeah.
How do you categorize that content to like not get as much traction, right? Like, how do you do that?
So would you say that? So the way I'm thinking about it is, and again, I don't fucking have the solution here at all.
I know, right?
Like, I am this is so outside of this is way beyond any area of expertise that I would ever have, and I'm not an expert at anything. Okay, so this is just me talking about. But the way I think about it is, okay, so this is Pareto rule for me. Okay. So 80% of the garbage is going to come from 20% of publications or data, maybe even more extreme. There is very small pockets of publications or information that's generating some sort of news articles or whatever you want to call it that's just geared to either misinform or they have some sort of agenda, mislead, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, right? Yes, and we know because Tesla's been the brunt of that for a long time.
Sure.
So much. And you dig a little bit in the story. If you're just superficially following Tesla, you just rattle off 10 different stories of like, wow, that's crazy stuff. But then you dig in the stories because no one has time to dig into stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're just shocked about how
you can scam that top 20%. And I don't know if it's banning. I don't know if I have no idea what the actual mechanism is to clean that up. But I think it's a lot less work. It's a lot less complex than we think because the Pareto rule holds true everywhere. So of course it's going to be hard. Of course it's going to be difficult, but I don't think it's going to be impossible. I think you can clean up discourse dramatically. You can 10x the quality of discourse by dealing with the top 20% of the noise creators out there. How we do it, I have no freaking idea.
Who are we going to call a noise creator? If you use like Tesla's example, we're going to create, what's her name? I should have named her. She's
Missy
like
Cummings?
Washington. No, another one. Washington.
Joe Biden. I'm just kidding.
Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal. Laura.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I'm trying to remember like a classic example of like somebody who definitely dislikes everything related to Tesla and then just keeps covering like the worst. Covers the the latest Tesla car accident. Covers like the FSD's not ready. The LiDAR stuff. She's just.
I have her face. You know what I mean? I see her face. I don't know her name. I forget her name.
Something like you just mentioned her in the right Tesla forum, and everybody goes, "Oh man!"
If
like,
anybody in the chat knows her name, let us know. Laura Kolodny? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's
Is
right.
that her?
Something like that.
Okay.
Say that again.
Laura Kolodny? Kolodny?
Yes, that's
Is that her? Okay.
Yeah.
I was somebody else.
I mean, I bet she thinks she's doing the right thing. She's what she does. She's a journalist. She's supposed to find the criticisms and some facts, and then and she doesn't have a lot of time to probably put it all together, and that's good enough. Hit publish, boom, get those clicks in there. Like how would any algorithm or human moderated algorithm kind of go like, hey, you're really not giving a fair shake here on these criticisms.
So why don't we? So shouldn't Twitter then just become the place where we solve how to do that? Like, there's got to be a solution. There has to be a solution to this.
I don't know that there is a solution. I think it's like trying to make cigarettes less harmful. It's in the thing that you're burning and inhaling. Like, you can't make them less harmful in that when you're smoking them, right? when you're finally scrolling through this content and it's a relevance model, so it's just part of it. Like, I got some ideas of what could possibly work, and I have some thoughts about like what I don't think will make any difference, but it's hard. I would say the category of reducing the advertising pressure. Yeah, advertising revenue pressure on Twitter is in the maybe category for me. Like, that could actually definitely have an impact.
How's this any different than solving, like, for example, say right now agree or disagree on the chat, but there is a big problem with money in politics in a way, right? Where money like drives a lot of the incentives behind how certain politicians behave, who they partner up with from a lobby perspective, right? And one of the things that has been floated in the past is that, hey, if we clean up the way money flows around in the political sphere, and we can align the will of the people with the money and who gets the money, then we clean up theoretically our political system much more, and it becomes a much more effective political system. Wouldn't that apply automatically to social media, and it becomes much less cancerous? Because it's almost like I think of it as like water. Like, water keeps you alive, but too much water kills you as well. Like, nothing is gonna be like perfect 100% supreme.
No.
But there are certain things in the world that exist that have an outsized positive outcome if it's harnessed in the right way. And yeah, some people might suffer from it and it might have some downsides, but the net positive of that thing is so much better than we realize, but it's just we haven't harnessed the power of it yet. So it's almost like freaking like burning fossil fuels. Like, that's a perfect example. We would not have our civilization today unless we were putting shit into the atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? That's how I view social media. That's how I view Twitter. That's the lens that I view it through. And I could be wrong.
That's a good point. That's a solid point. I would argue. Although,
and it's abstract. It's abstract. And I don't have any solid things that says, hey, this is exactly why it's going to work. But like, to me, there's just certain things we can harness for the net positive outcome of humankind. And then we got to figure out how to clean up the shit that it's sort of spewing, in its tailpipe, so that we can move forward as a species and then we don't end up collapsing.
Yeah. I don't disagree with the notion that like in politics, we need to get rid of the monetary incentive. Okay. But like in politics, asking politicians to give up their ability to run their campaigns or collect money for their campaigns. You're asking these guys that are in the seat of power to relinquish more power, to tighten up their own belts for the betterment of society. Mm-hmm. We're so far past that in our discourse in politics that it's like, good luck. I mean, but
are we past that in the social media realm though?
Well, the role of the impartial observer, the role of government would be a good one to regulate that social media. But that comes with the problem. Like, now you're asking government to curtail speech. So now we're China, right? Like, somebody will just make that argument. Like, we're going to use government. That's not going to happen. So the next best thing was an Elon Musk, who's a technologist trying to purchase this thing and then make the best version of it that he can possibly can. Yes. I mean, that's where we're at. That's where we are. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like it's, like I 100% get what you're coming from, and I like part of me honestly like agrees with you in a sense that like perhaps the end of civilization is born out of social media in a way. But I feel like, man, like there's still this gigantic craving for the truth, and there's a gigantic craving for having a forum where we can have open and free discussion that could lead to better ideas for the betterment of humankind. Yeah. And if shame on us if we don't try. Shame. And, it's kind of like that whole thing is like, if it's important enough for us to do it, we have to do it. Like we have to do it. And I think that's at the essence of this Twitter deal. That's like the essence of the Twitter deal. It certainly is
at the essence of an Elon Musk in the capacity of creating Tesla, right? I mean, we could have go 10 years back and these conversations of like, well, battery cars are even viable. Like the battery cars, like really, is that everybody's going to be driving those things? I mean, it was at that crazy level. So I'm not going to, as I say, bet against Elon on anything, but I just got that feeling that this is just a deep quagmire where nobody who comes in there as the role of a referee is going to come out of that unscathed. I mean, it's just gonna, and maybe in that, I think he made that mention in that at Financial Times, he mentioned like, if doing good means we're just gonna get sued when somebody runs the car into a ditch because they weren't paying attention the way we were told them they had to with the way you're driving, then so be it, because that's better. We'll just, he said, we'll just take the heat for it. And I think maybe that's what he's thinking about Twitter as well. Right. I'm going to just correct some of this. I do like the removal of permanent bans for the reasons that it doesn't actually work, right? Mm-hmm. When you permanently ban somebody, it will just create another account or they go to some other platform or whatever. But I think that like having the official timeout for adults that are misbehaving, but still have their identity intact in that space, I think that's a viable approach, only because I think I also like, we need more due process in Twitter. We need more due process, period, in all social media platforms. If you tweet something or write a piece of content and somebody shadow bans that or deletes it or puts something on it, it should be like, this person by this, working at the company and for this reason, because it crossed this line of this thing, like it has to be identifiable. Because then if you were unfairly banned or whatever it was, who do you go to contest that? If you feel like you're really unfairly banned, there's no due process. There's nothing there, right? It's just right now, it's just like suddenly your tweets aren't just being shown only to your immediate followers, but it's not being rotated in relevance algorithms across the rest of the internet, right? Yeah. Because somebody at Twitter decided that it was like, too toxic,
right?
But based on their opinion, I don't know,
Let me give a quick shout out here. RB just gave us a $4 super chat here. Thank you, RB. Appreciate it, my man. Thank you very much. Severin, I'm so sorry. I'm just going to say the first name. Londerberg? Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Severin. I think people recognize the 80-20 ugly spreader. Trying to solve it with algorithms seems, for me, less likely to give a solution than letting the Twitter reading community give the input to solve it. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, you know what? That's a great point. Because, that's why I like Reddit so much more. Reddit effectively outsourced their content moderation. Reddit just basically said, let everybody create their own little fiefdoms, domains, and let them battle out, like, in whatever category, who's in charge, what are the rules of their moderation, what counts, what doesn't. I find like discourse on Reddit like orders of magnitude more intriguing and more nuanced and more interesting than,
but it's way biased though, dude. Like Reddit can be pretty biased though. That's the thing.
To what side?
Like towards the left. It's pretty echo chambery. Because I've been a Reddit user for a while. Maybe I'm on the wrong subreddits. But
you join some of mine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Okay. But so do you view Reddit as a more, like, do you think that's a viable solution? I mean, from what you've seen?
From a social media company perspective, I think that they were smart about how they did that. How they because here's the other thing. If you decide, like, there is some speech, there is some things that are just too dangerous, right? Like just child pornography. Nobody wants child pornography online, period. Like, let's just say that we should all agree that's just bad, terrible shit. Shouldn't happen. Think of the kids, whatever.
Yeah.
If you were really going to go towards like a free speech first model, I mean, the lines of what you would consider crossing that line into the child pornography zone is really, really, really low. It's like child pornography and like, putting somebody's phone number to suggest somebody should go kill somebody. Like it's very boxed in. It's not, it doesn't do, let me say, it wouldn't do shit for misinformation or misleading information. It wouldn't rise to that. So if you're going to put a bunch of people, it should just be around that. That's actually what Reddit does, right? They have some admins, and they have people they've hired, and they're just kind of taking out, accounts that are bad, that have that kind of stuff, that cross that line. But pretty much everything else is fairly open, except for some of the liberal bias that perhaps, given where Reddit's come from, California, whatever. Yeah. I don't even know where Reddit's headquarters are. Like, so maybe that's something there, but
let me give you an example of something. So, for example, we have somebody in the comment, RB. He says, I'm permanently banned from Reddit, the politics subreddit, for COVID misinformation. And so some of the subreddits, and I think I've seen this too, is like some of the subreddits get to a certain size. That's, say, I think the politics subreddit has over 1 million people. RB, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have a ton of people there. But whenever I go to the politics subreddit, it's like, and again, and I'm not a left or right guy. I'm an ideas guy. I just like ideas. But it's very obvious that subreddit, to me, seems to have a very heavy left lean, but it's marketed as a politics subreddit. It's marketed as a forum for people to discuss politics. But if you were there during the Trump administration, like I remember this, the first 20 posts were just posts shitting on Trump the entire time. Right or wrong, it was super anti-Republican.
Yeah, but that's that subreddit. Like,
but it's marketed as politics though, right? And it's got millions of people. That's the problem.
Because they were one of the original subreddits. Like, they were one of the first, and like just somehow a left.
So it's like whoever has the first mover advantage. Yeah, if you have first mover advantage in that space, then you can push your bias.
Yeah, but from I don't know who owns Reddit now because they've been bought out by a couple of people. But I mean that it's like it's not Reddit's not Reddit corporate's real problem. That's just that subreddit and the way that subreddit happened to like bubble up.
But isn't that the problem though? Because now you've created an echo chamber where you can't have discourse. You can't have real discourse.
100%. But there's going to be other subreddit. Like the argument will be like, go back and create another subreddit. The anti-politics subreddit. I think that's what he mentioned, right? Like you got banned out of that.
Yeah, but now it's just going to be opposite. It's going to be white queening.
Yeah. Dude, that happens all the time on Reddit. That's like all the time on Reddit. People get fed up with the mods going too crazy, and then they go create another anti-subreddit against that subreddit.
But I think that's one of the problems of leaving it up to the people to moderate. And I can see how maybe we need like some sort of combination of like I don't know. I still feel like AI and algorithms can play a role here, where you can have like the complete arbiter of like of abiding by the law of each jurisdiction, and then you could have like people perhaps like, I don't know. I have no idea. No idea.
No one has a problem with a subreddit shutting down subreddit that has child pornography. No one has a problem with that.
Of course,
the vast majority. But when you shut down a subreddit because there's actual questions about the vaccines, and it gets lumped into this wider, just anti-vax everything, right?
Yeah.
That's when things get vague and weird, because like you still want to know, like, well, how safe are these vaccines really? And what were the testing protocols? And have like a thoughtful, educated understanding of what's happening. Like, how are they actually, whatever all that was. Yeah. It just seems like as soon as COVID hit, the line was easy to manage anti-porn, but then the vaccine nightmare of misinformation exploded, and it happened everywhere, by the way, not just Reddit, man. It's everywhere. Right. And then you can't actually discern like what's legit or what's like the official government stance versus like, I don't know, people that actually know what the hell they're talking about related to these vaccines. It's just hard to figure out. How are you going to tell me, if it's not an algorithm, if it's a person or a group of people, how's anybody supposed to referee all that out? Right?
So I guess where my head goes is like, why is that even a part of the like refereeing discussion? Why don't you just allow the information to happen, like exist, and then just allow the public to to do what they need to do to sift through the information? Because is it like the question, and I don't know what the right answer is, but my question is like, how, if you go back to like the ultimate purpose of freedom of speech, how does conversations like that break the law in any sense, right?
No, you make a valid point, and I would argue that's fine if there wasn't this relevance model surfacing the content. Right. So making like you're part of the echo chamber just by simply using the platform.
Right.
Period. It's just gonna keep coming at you. I got a cousin that's anti-vax, and I think he's like got a lot of misinformation about it all. Like I think he's really down the deep end on this thing. And to this day, we can't talk to each other anymore. Right? Like we can't have an honest conversation. There's no discovery. There's no interest. It's just more about like, well, see, here's another example of why he thinks it's bad and why I think he's out of his mind or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
The algorithm is messing with us both effectively.
Yeah.
It's just it's like self-referencing the same content. It's just my argument on that, Yeah. Now I do like a couple other things that have been brought up, I would say. The transparency and judgment is essential.
Yeah.
But I got one that I think is wouldn't make people pleased with this idea. But I think part of the problem is that it's just still too easy to create content, however truthful, however it's necessary. It's too easy to create and publish content. Like, I just think that we need like a little, like a penny tax or something per tweet, just enough to get rid of like massive, cheap overseas generating of chum content that's just designed to do exactly that. Just like get everybody vitriol, like get everybody worked up about
just kind of like a spam, like to try and like minimize spam kind of thing.
Just spam for certain,
or to force people to think about what they're going to publish before they.
Okay. Just to reduce the number of like 12-year-old, Cheeto dust keyboard warriors out there. Just like.
You mean
just
me?
Constantly fucking with each other and fucking with us and laughing about it. You know what I mean? Like, I love hot Cheetos. Like, I understand this culture. Like, get it?
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Like, they got to work a little harder. If your idea is really that important, if you're really identifying a problem in society that you really need to get the concept out, I mean, you shouldn't have to pay gobs of money to publish something. But just a little bit to like think like, do I really want to share this random unsourced video on my WhatsApp to like all my family about whatever crazy the earth is flat?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's got to be something in there.
But let's think about that, though. Let's extrapolate that idea, because I think I like that idea, but then I'm trying to think, what are the negatives of it? Wouldn't that give the people with the most money the most voice, in a sense?
Yeah, that's always the argument against any kind of tax. That's the argument. Like the carbon tax, that's what I get mostly about. I think there should be a carbon tax. I'm with Elon. There should be a carbon tax yesterday. Yeah. And like gradually increasing so that everybody can plan for it and then adjust accordingly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Do people really feel that the 5 cents per plastic bag is onerous on poor people? Like now they have to go get bags if they don't want to spend the 5 cents.
Right.
I mean, really? Like, I don't know. But it's just way, way, way easy to go on Fiverr, pay a guy $1 an hour and have him just work all day, every day,
right? Making
whatever memes, whatever, signing up with 1,000 accounts on Reddit or whatever. And then just like creating these content farms.
Really. We have a comment here. I think the fundamental problem is that people don't change their minds in the face of overwhelming evidence.
Yeah.
What do you think about
that? Because it's wrapped up in there. I agree with that. That's something big time. And I'm doing a lot of work on myself recently because I definitely lean left, but I've gotten more in the center as I've been pushed from some of the craziest on this. Like, thanks guys. It's like, well, I didn't even want to be here, but I have to because you guys are crazy too. And just like those guys, it's like we're getting squeezed in the center. But yes, that sentiment is true. I think it's just because it wraps you into your identity. Like you build this scaffolding of perception of what you think the world is or how you think the world is wrong. And then any new information that, antagonizes that, it just makes you more defensive. I'll give you the example. In the history of mankind, when someone said to someone that's losing their shit, hey man, calm down. Has that ever worked? Has that ever worked for anybody?
Yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And like social media or relevance model content, it's just giving you like, just scroll on TikTok and you'll get the next one that'll piss you off.
But
right?
again, isn't the going back to sort of the aspirational goal of Twitter of being the open town square of humanity? Isn't that the way to try and help ourselves try to move away from that by being exposed to all the different things that people are thinking about and how they're approaching it? Isn't that really the only way to, I hate to use the word train, but to like get our brains more conditioned to being used to hearing the opposite side or the overwhelming evidence? Don't we have to create some sort of environment, at least give people an option that says, hey, if you go here, everything's wide open, there's bias has been minimized, and you're being exposed to a free flow of information where you can be exposed to all the different things, and then perhaps it becomes a trying to solve the curiosity problem that says, hey, I'm curious about expanding my horizons, I'm curious about seeing the alternate viewpoints and the alternate narratives, right?
Yeah.
Like
one of my favorite, one of my favorite
You're good.
subreddits is a Change My Viewpoint subreddit, CMV on Reddit. It's amazing. It's like somebody goes on there and they're like, all right, this is how I think of this issue. Like, and they put in all their explanation, and then then the community has this honest discussion with this person, giving them like, okay, well, here's where, you might not have thought of enough about whatever it is you think. It's a beautiful example of how the internet can actually really work in making sure that you're not just simply going down your own rabbit hole of an opinion, right? But how do you create that across the entire platform? I don't know. Like, just telling people to be nicer and kind, be kind is probably one of those things. Probably telling people like, hey, if you're just going to troll somebody, you're just pushing them further into believing the earth is flat. Like, you're not actually helping by ridiculing that person. You're just shoving them further and further into their entrenched views, right?
Yeah.
So you're not helping, right? Like, so can we dial some of the trolling down algorithmically? If like, I know there's sentiment analysis of tweets. There's software that can gauge rough sentiment analysis.
Well, I think that's why removing the bots is such a big part of the equation.
Yeah.
Because that would try to solve that,
I think there's an open area to explore with that for sure. But then, we still got to make sure we open source all of that, right? Like, really, how is the bot working? And then I think of like pragmatically from like a data, like I do work with data technology. I wouldn't want that project. Like, that project sounds atrociously complicated. Like, what?
Yeah,
what?
You wouldn't be able to pay me enough.
What is AI? What is AI? What is AI? AI is a method to not write the algorithm.
Right.
But to train the algorithm to respond a particular way. You're inherently creating the bias in that algorithm one way or the other. You're just training the algorithm over permutations to like not drive the car off the road, to identify a tweet that somebody wrote that's like too toxic or untrue or has misleading information that we need to like adjust its ability to spread too far.
Yeah.
How the fuck do you do that?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I don't know.
There's a comment that was just posted that I think it's actually pretty that maybe paints a picture that it's not as like, maybe this is the ultimate like this bit, perhaps this is as good as it's gonna get. Evil Sagon says, love how you all can discuss freedom of speech. Meanwhile, my country's government sues and jails people for speaking something they don't like.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's, yeah, sorry you have to live through that, evil Saigon. That sucks. But like, I wonder if maybe, like, is this environment now, could this be it? Like, the fact that we're, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you feel somehow more empowered, or do you feel like the latest thing that has happened with the Twitter thing and the Trump thing and everything that's going on right now, where I feel like people are almost going out of their way to speak their mind a little bit more? Have you sensed that at all from your end? Because I feel like I've sensed that a little bit on my end. Is that people feel more empowered or feel more open about speaking more openly and speaking more freely, or is it just am I in my own bubble seeing that, or you don't see that?
My feelings are, well, I guess from the crowds and friends that I've had over the years, I get a feeling that it's mixed bag, really. Like some people are definitely becoming way more open to just sharing their thoughts and let the chips fall where they may, you know. What is that guy? Stephen Martin model. What's his name?
Stephen Mark Ryan?
Yeah, Stephen Mark Ryan.
Yeah.
Why would I say Stephen Mark for that? that guy's hilarious. He's amazing too.
Shout out.
He's great. So, yeah. Like there's those characters, and I think that kind of voice is really important to be out there and not to be curtailing that. He's impassioned by what he speaks, and he, as far as I can tell, is like as truthful as he can possibly be. You know where he stands. I respect that, but that takes courage, right? That takes some cojones, and maybe some source of income that's not dependent on somebody else's opinion of you, right?
Right.
I don't think we have that fully out there for everybody, but I do see people becoming more open to just expressing whatever the hell is happening. I think part of that is coming from you're just getting stimulated enough. Go back to the damn algorithm to just be like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm tired of seeing, whatever it is. I'm tired of seeing these attacks on Sesame Street. I'm gonna get online and tell people how important Sesame Street is. It's like you find it everywhere. It's like It doesn't matter if there's an issue, if there's something of contention, there's going to be a group on one side pushing that issue, and then the counter side to that. Yeah. And the more hard grained that line is, the more the algorithm's like collecting those people into those groups and feeding them each other's like worst content to.
Yeah.
Do that. And that troubles me deeply because I worry that's let me back up one point. I've been waiting for the Great Burnout to happen. I've been waiting for everybody to like finally feel like they've said everything that they've, hated about everything about the world, got it out of their system, and finally go, okay, now I really got to work with the other side of whoever it is to figure out like, how can we find common ground? We're not there yet, I think.
Yeah, but
just not there yet.
That's a scary thought because I feel like that I think the only way to get there is to is violence the place where that happens. Because if you think about like if we're heading towards the direction of, like the monkey brain's going to keep getting stimulated, I feel like there's no end to that stimulation, and it's eventually just going to lead to that place. I don't know.
I'm terrified. I think anybody that advocates for war is super disrespectful to all the people that are stuck in a war of none of their that have nothing to do with what their lives were about, right? Like it's super gross to think you would want to advocate for like, we're just going to go to war. We're going to pick up my pistols and I'm going to go just do something. I think that is like the worst possible. That's a cancer to a society, right? On the other hand, maybe we need an outlet for some violence, and maybe we got to take that MMA model and expand it. Sponsored fights. If you really hate this other guy much,
dude, there's this
over
one YouTube channel
or the flat Earth. Time to bring back dueling. Dude, time to bring it back.
There's
these guys in the ring. Make the ref a doctor, so the doctor can kind of make sure like no one's gonna actually totally kill or maim somebody. Have at it.
Oh
my
God,
boys.
There's a channel called I think it's called Street Beefs. I forget what it's called because I'm a huge MMA fan, and I forget what it's called. But literally, it's like two people that have beef. It's like in the street. They make like this like octagon made out of like plywood. I don't even know. It's
that was
like
MMA. Not that long ago.
Yeah,
that was MMA not
and
that
like
long ago.
Two people that have beef. You throw them in there. They beat the shit out of each other, and then the beef's done. And it's like, okay, well, cool. Let's get back to it, So I don't know, man. I feel like
MMA is not a professional level, right? Like professional killers fighting other professional killers.
Yeah, that's
we need
like
the minor leagues of that.
Yeah,
we need the junior league. The you just got upset with your neighbor.
Yeah,
I duel you.
Every neighborhood has like an octagon, and they can go on the app and schedule 2:30.
I mean, once that, violence in video games, like the data in that is really clear that violence in video games doesn't necessarily correlate to increased violence.
Right.
It may actually reduce violence because it may
outlet.
Get on there, have at it, and then it's gone. Right. I don't have to deal with it. Maybe some of this is that I'm hoping, I mean, there needs
Yeah.
to be, whenever like that guy that's living in a repressed, society, like it doesn't, like that repression then manifests itself in other ways, in other like but passive aggressiveness, or just not really believing in the country that you're living, not working, you're doing your best, figuring it comes out in other weird, you can't really control that. Like
Right.
those governments that have a really repressive regime are trying to keep their like thing from falling apart.
Right.
Just look at Russia's invasion of Ukraine, how like abysmally bad it's been.
Yeah.
And that's because there's graft and corruption all the way down those generals, down to the guy riding the tanks into the damn field.
Yeah.
They were all skimming off the top, so they didn't really apply. I mean, there's some reports like, some field guys has to have 100 troops. Well, he only hired like 90 because he kept, he got there's no, it's soft in those corrupt areas. Nothing really works because there's graft and there's just a cheating system. Nobody trusts anybody. It's just a bad way of doing things, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion,
So to wrap up the Twitter, because I know we want to talk about FSD for a little bit. So to wrap up the Twitter, and by the way, it's over an hour already. Like,
I can't believe it.
Like, it's ridiculous, dude. Like, I feel like every time we
talk, I'll get in trouble
like,
with this episode.
Come on, get out of here. This is great. I'm having a blast. Let me know if you guys in the chat are having a good time. I'm having a good time. Sounds like Ernesto's having a great time. So to wrap up the Twitter topic, so are you still in the camp that you don't think it should go through? You don't think Elon should close the deal?
Yeah. I mean, there's other things I'd like to see done. It would be awesome if he opened up the API again. Then we can actually study the data that's in there, right?
Yeah.
To make the ecosystem. Definitely the transparency. I mean, listen, if he gets the deal done, and it's probably going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at a lower price point.
Mm-hmm.
I wishing him the best of luck to actually do something fascinating. Like, I think of all the people in the world that could probably pull it off and has enough engineers and has enough resources, but doesn't have to, has enough of a runway to make it work. It's that guy, right?
Yeah.
So, but I would rather, if the thing does fall through, hey, good, because there's so much, Tesla's, you got to get that thing even bigger. Like the things just keep going. But I want to go into that. So actually, because I watched your full FSD, and you had a really interesting insights that you were saying that if Elon's off here dealing with Twitter, and then the main AI guy, what's his name again?
Andre Karpathy.
Yeah, he's taking a probably long overdue sabbatical. And I think sabbaticals are really important. I think taking breaks from the workflow opens you up for inspiration. So none of that's like a bad thing.
Right.
But if that's happening, it was interesting you mentioned that. It means FSD is like, it's on it's coasting. It's cruising along. It's not in a state where like they're debating whether it's going to work or not.
That's correct. Yeah. You don't buy that?
No, I do. No, okay. I do. You're the expert. I buy it. That's amazing implication to me.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I think there's one key thing I've learned following Tesla, working there, is that when they have a big enough goal, which kind of it's like also Twitter. That's why I think Twitter is going to work out. But we'll close that topic off. But they've proven that they're masters at executing against big goals that they've set in their sites. Okay. And so full self-driving to me is it's not a matter of if, it's honestly, it's such a matter of when that we're so far into that realm. Like if is not even a question in my mind. It's going to get done. It is 100% going to get done.
How do you define full self-driving though? And by that, I mean, can I sleep in the car?
I think we'll get there 100%. Like we'll get there. I don't know if this is a this year thing. So here's how I have full self-driving in my head. Okay, I think there's a pathway for them given the recent happenings of Andre going on sabbatical. Elon feels like he has enough bandwidth for Twitter. Okay, those are the two big ones. But you also have developments where, I've seen it with my own two eyes, full self-driving keeps getting better and better. I think there is a pathway for them by the end of this year to release what would be deemed a full self-driving software that's going to allow people to go from point A to point B without touching the wheel at all. And it's just as reliable, if not more reliable, than a human driver in markets. So in markets where, let's say, weather is not a huge deal. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And in theory, you could probably hit like 30 to 40% of the United States population with that subsegment. So for example,
like rural areas or suburban areas, like where traffic is pretty predictable.
Not even anywhere where it doesn't snow. Let's just use that. Anywhere where it doesn't snow, or
FSD turns off when it starts snowing for now. Because we just can't.
Sure, or they don't make it available in those areas. I really do think they're that close to that, or they have a pathway to get there. So all of California, basically the south west part of the country, California, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Nevada, Texas. You go down Florida, whatever.
I'm moving.
Yeah, there you go. I really do think they're going to get there. They're going to get there by the end of the year.
Because they must have these things. They must have these cars. They do. They have them on the roads already. Yeah. They're doing their beta, but then there's other software levels above that they're testing, probably in tighter and tighter teams. Going, it's checking off. It's checking off. It's still checking off.
Yeah.
So,
and the implications to think about this is like there's other. I think Waymo and a couple other companies have self-driving cars today, but they are in a 12 block sub-segment of a specific city. So if you think about a percentage of the population that has access to that is like single digit or less. It's fractional, right? Now you think about what are the implications of full self-driving going live in certain markets, say all of San Francisco, all of LA, all of Austin, all of Las Vegas, and pick a bunch of other cities, Tampa, Orlando, so on and so forth. All of these markets become live, and you can use full self-driving anywhere within those markets. You already have exposed, call 30 to 40 million, maybe not that many, 30 million people have now been exposed to a technology that is getting them from point A to point B at a fraction of the cost of any other solution, and it's just as easy to hail as an Uber. Oh, and by the way, this is going to scale to the rest of the country super quickly. Okay. Whereas these other companies have to generate a ton of training data in specific markets because of the technology that they decided to use for their solutions. So like Waymo, I know uses LiDAR. A lot of these companies use LiDAR. So they have to create very accurate maps of where they're going. Whereas Tesla's full self-driving solution is much more scalable because it's just relying on what it sees with its own two eyes, like a human driver. That's why you can drive. Where do you live right now? Where are you from?
Washington D.C.
Washington D.C. That's right.
Yeah. Outskirts, Virginia side.
So that's why you can. Yeah. That's why you can go to say you can take a flight to Austin right now, and you can get in a rental car and drive. Because you have a neural net that's in your brain that's allowing you to map out what a road means. These other these other self-driving companies cannot do that. Tesla is the only one that can do that. And as soon as it becomes available in those markets, I think what's going to happen, a light bulb is going to go off to the rest of the population that thought this is impossible. And they're like, okay, this is like here. Like we're here. It's just a matter of time for it to be opened up to the rest of the country.
I'm wondering, having a car that's that responsive to potential collisions. Like at what point, how many of those Tesla cars need to be on the road using, assisted driving and FSD to start actually taking a ding out of potential accidents? So I used to be a former firefighter, so I got to see actual car wrecks. Was on a rescue squad truck actually. So, got to go to a lot of T-bones and multi-car pileups and things. This is my younger years. So, I have visceral memories of what it's like to be mangled in a car and have to get somebody out, and to have these cars that can just prepare for that impact or accelerate just a little bit out of the way before you're not even seeing it. Cause it's the cameras are behind you. You're not looking at that thing. It's just, you're moving the potential reduction of that is astounding.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think Like I'd like to know if somebody's out there. I don't know if somebody would know that's starting to figure that out. Cause I get I get that, what is it? The annual reports sort of aiming for like 10 times reduction in safety for the actual driver driving Tesla. But what's not being thought of is like, well, that's not the only person involved in a car accident, right? Like it's the other car, the other driver, or just seeing, by the way, deer. Oh my God. Like careful when you see one deer, there's always going to be more. Like immediately slow down. Those things will just like wreck you, you know?
I have a funny deer story, by the way.
You do?
Yeah. Every time my dad would borrow my car for like a 5-year period, he would always hit a deer. And I'm not even kidding. I swear to God. Like he was like, I would not let him drive my cars after a certain point because he's just like a magnet for deer. This was when we were living in Pennsylvania. Anyway, sorry. That's like, I'm like scarred. Like literally, I remember telling my mom, is like, do not let him drive my car. Because the last 3 times, literally I had 3 different cars and 3 different times he either hit a deer or he hit something because of a deer. And it became damaged. Dude, it's crazy. But you make...
I'll give you one car accident story. We ran a call and this guy, I mean, his car was in a ditch and it had like just like the front left tire totally crumpled. I mean, he must have hit this deer really hard.
Oh, man.
And he was kind of banged up because some of the deer parts went into he had an open window, so he got kind of like hit with something.
Yeah.
And I got there and you start processing and the guy's laughing and I was like, sir, are you okay? Like, why are you laughing? He goes, this is my ex-wife's car.
No. Dang.
Was like, okay, all right,
he's thrilled.
He was all right.
He got back at her, like in your face. Your car is total.
Yeah.
No, but you make a great point.
It's all that stuff that's out there still to be calculated and tabulated. Like it's going to come a point where you'll run into towns where you have to have FSD on. When is that? Right? When does that happen?
Yeah, I mean that's going to be interesting to see. But the point you make is great. It's like it's not just a reduction of accidents; it's a reduction of severity of accidents as well. And that's why I think that correlates directly to one of the comments. I don't know if you follow Sandy Monroe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Off and on here, though, when he does a breakdown. Yeah.
He interviewed Elon, and they've talked about this. Is that they both think that full self-driving technology is going to do more for safety than airbags or seatbelts, right? Because of the avoidance and the capability of reacting to the scenario to try and minimize the likelihood of an accident or a severe accident, right?
Yeah. Think of a whiplash situation where you're parked and the car just distracted driving, plows into behind you. If you can get your car to just move a little bit, it reduces the impact forces at that moment when they hit you.
Yep.
Humans are going to do that. You're sitting there waiting for the red light. You're not looking at your rear view mirror, see who's actually going to come from behind.
Right.
FSD can do that.
100%.
Yeah, I believe it.
100%.
It's going to be amazing.
I think this is the year where, I mean, again, I could be 100% wrong. I'm just trying to put some breadcrumbs together based on my insight and my experience to say, hey, I'm confident that this is going to happen based on what happened. Like the current events that are going down with Twitter and Andre taking a sabbatical and whatever. But I think the bigger story is going to be once it becomes clear enough for the rest of the population that this is a done deal and it's just a matter of time for the rest of the markets to open up. I think that the way Tesla is going to be perceived is going to dramatically transform from car company to a true technology company,
to software company.
And that is going to do all kinds of crazy stuff to Tesla's valuation.
You don't think that's priced into the institutional investment? No,
dude, it's not even. I would say not even the. I wouldn't say the car business is fully priced into the stock price right now, especially now. Like no one's really thinking about the growth potential for even the next 2 years and the amount of cash you're going to be able to generate in the upcoming years. Forget FSD, just getting to 3 million plus cars a year at 35% margin is completely ridiculous. And when you have a prospect of growing the car business 50% year over year, and you layer in your full self-driving, and you layer in your solar, and you layer in the battery storage,
hitting it at 70% on the down market with the COVID and supply chains, you're still killing your own projections. So these guys, right? Elon, the AI guy, these guys aren't the type of guys to let off the gas unless the rocket ship's already launched.
100%. 100%. That's what I saw internally. I can't tell you how many times folks would go on vacation. Like when big guys or big girls when I say big, I mean like, they have a lot of responsibility,
right.
When they went on a long vacation, to me, it was an indication of, okay, like what's coming down the pike's going to happen, because, we may be waiting for something, and then it's like on the route to get to us. And then the person that was responsible for leading it, they're like, oh no, they're gone for a couple of weeks. And then before you know it, boom, the freaking onslaught of work comes, because now that piece is done. And now you got to do your piece to make it happen. So, but again, I could be wrong. Some people have theorized that, hey, the reason why Andre took a sabbatical is because they've hit a wall, and Elon needs him to go figure some stuff out while he goes and buys Twitter. You know what I'm saying? To like keep himself sort of occupied. But Twitter is not a 4-month commitment. Twitter is a multi-year commitment. Right. So to me, if Elon's doing that and the head of AI is taking a sabbatical, to me, it says that at the very least, that team that's overseeing full self-driving has it handled, whatever it needs.
If Tesla was in trouble at this stage and any level that would measurably impact the production, I don't see Elon suddenly going, I want to try out this Twitter thing, see what's up.
No way.
No.
And he's repeatedly said that, the bot, which is something that they're working on as well, the bot is directly correlated to the full self-driving, sort of like, think of it as the neural networks or whatever you want to call it. Those two are tied together, because the technology that's going to be driving full self-driving is going to be driving the bot. And he's stated repeatedly that the bot and full self-driving are numero uno. I'm saying numero uno as if I'm not from Spain. Numero uno. Like I'm saying it with a freaking American accent. I'm so weird. Those things are top priority for the company. Okay. And it is not in their DNA, especially I believe Elon's DNA, that he would let off the gas from something that's top priority, because he has never done that in the history of us following his journey. He never did that when he started Tesla. He never did that when he started SpaceX. He never did that when they were getting to reusable rockets, ramping up Model 3. The dude basically almost killed himself by overworking almost, right? It's not in the DNA. So I do not see, I think I've made my point a couple of times already, but it's like,
I'd like to see a journalist actually ask Elon, hey man, now that you're in your 50s, like, what are you doing to, extend your, the journey here? Like, are you, are you eating right? Are you working out a little? How's your sleep? Like, I would want to, I want that guy around for a long while. There's still like so much more to do, right?
That's one of the topics that comes up in our community quite a bit, is if there's one thing that people are concerned about is Elon's health, for sure. And I worry about it too, honestly. But
we need to hire David Goggins to follow you on.
Dude, David Goggins might give him a freaking heart attack, bro. What are you talking about?
You got 5 minutes to do push-ups now.
Yeah. Stay hard. Conquer your inner bitch. Stay hard. Oh my goodness!
Have you had John John Duma? Is that his name?
James Duma.
Yeah, James.
Yeah, I haven't had him on yet. No, you're good. I'm probably worse. James Duma. No, I haven't had him on yet. I'd like to have him on at some point. He's super knowledgeable when it comes to AI. So I'll definitely look to set that up at some point. I do have somebody coming on Tuesday. His name is on. I'm sorry, John. His first name's John, but his channel is called Dr. Know-It-All. Dr. Know-It-All knows it all, and he's a sort of an AI expert as well. So I'm going to talk to him on Tuesday.
Great.
He's great. He's great. He's the man. I met him on when we were doing TeslaCon and the Giga Texas launch a few weeks ago. I met him in person. He's a super nice guy. His wife's really nice too. So I'm excited to have him on Tuesday, and we're going to chat about that. But yeah, that's James is one of the guys that I've been looking to get on my channel at some point. But he has a lot of insight.
Yeah, it'd be really good to get some insight. There's other former Tesla. Have you been reaching out to anybody who's not on a YouTube channel to get on the show?
Yeah, I've talked to 3 former Tesla employees. Yeah. So that's been pretty fun. I've been chatting to one of my buddies from Tesla. whenever that person decides that that they're going to move on from the company, whenever that is, him and I are going to do like a mega podcast, because him and I are pretty close and we've seen a lot and we've built a lot of things together. Like we're almost envisioning like sitting down and, having a few beers and like, who knows how long this thing's going to be, like a 5-hour mega podcast or something.
Yeah.
It's going to be insane, but we'll try our best to tell stories without getting sued because of our NDA.
Please don't. Yeah.
But I think no, Tesla's been very good with that stuff. I haven't heard anything. I think they're okay with what I'm doing.
I feel like you got a good beat on the balance. I mean, what's like the sensitive stuff that has to be protected
of course.
For those guys. Like, that's just part of the.
I would never disclose anything that I feel like is going to jeopardize the company or is going to somehow give some sort of data points that could be, that are not public or can be misconstrued, right? So I'm being very careful with that stuff.
Well, hold on a sec. Everything can get misconstrued no matter what. So it's not. Sure. I don't even think you.
or obviously, it can be very obviously be misconstrued. Let's just put it that way. Like I'm trying to frame stuff appropriately, but anyway. All right, man. Should we wrap it up here? We're almost at an hour and a half.
Sure.
We hit any last thoughts before we close this sucker out?
No, but listen, I really appreciate your audience, everybody. That's been really cool. I know that some of you guys jumped on my channel. It doesn't track exactly with this world, but this is an amazing story, and I'm going to keep following it. And as far as that, thank you so much. Like I'm going to keep doing this with you as things happen. Let's see what happens with this Twitter deal. He should get a better price. It seems like
I think he will. I think he will. Yeah.
Too much.
At the very least, he'll get it repriced given the recent macro stuff that's going on. And I think he definitely will. One of the tweets he said underneath that tweet that he sent that it's on hold is that he's still committed to closing it out. So I think ultimately it's just a play of leverage to try and get a better deal with the intention of getting there. Right.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that's piled in money between the announcement to get that price differential, like $4 or $5 between like the stated price. I mean, you knew what you were doing. You're buying in at something like if that shouldn't weigh into this discussion. So like basically any short-term investing, you really shouldn't have. I mean, I don't know. So you're just gambling. So
yeah, in a sense.
Like you're rolling the dice, I mean, so if I hope it works out for everybody, but if it doesn't, it's
be more
fine.
Careful next time.
Like, the real big problem is going to be like, what is Elon going to do with this mess? So it'll be interesting to see what happens as they start to roll out. And, it's going to take some time to figure out some of this.
100%.
This world, but
100%,
anyway.
Man. Yeah. One last time, you want to plug your stuff real quick? Twitter, YouTube.
Through the Noise podcast on YouTube is where I really need the help. I've had the audio show for like 7 years, and it's like going deep in there is super boring because I used to just interview the nonprofit world, which is where I got started in podcasting. Mm-hmm. I should correct that. It was really interesting for me. I'm not so sure it would be interesting for some of your groups, but the recent stuff on all the renewables, the clean tech, the AI that I'm pulling in and bringing in those companies, that's all going to get pushed on the YouTube channel. So if anybody's interested, appreciate you guys checking it out. So
awesome. Make sure you go check it out. And yeah, let's do this again sometime, dude, because I really love the back and forth we have. And I love the fact that we do have, like when we were going back and forth on the Twitter stuff there, that debate, I love that because it was super engaging and you were making such great points and was helping me sort of like thinking about my side of the story as well. So I like the fact that we do have some different opinions on some things, and I think that's what makes it such a great discussion.
Yeah,
that's why free speech is so beautiful.
It's very important. You got to understand the other side's perspective.
Yeah,
you're just not really getting what's happening, right? Like reality is way more complicated. So
absolutely,
you have to hear everybody's thoughts around it, right?
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
Anyway.
All right, everybody.
Gentle, everybody.
Take it easy. I'm going to end the stream right here. You got it. Thank you. Awesome. Dude, that was awesome.